Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast. 20 minutes with some of the world's top fitness pros. I'm your host, Anthony Arena. You can check out the show notes at stop20podcast.com. Before you do that though, go to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Leave us a rating and a review. Really important right now to kind of get the word out there. For today's episode of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast, I have on Tony Gentilcore. Tony is a certified strength and conditioning coach from the NSCA. He's also one of the co-founders of Cressy Sports Performance. He served as one of the head coaches there from 2007 to 2015, but now he's got his own studio in Boston called Core. And you can check him out at TonyGentilcore.com. We'll have all the links to his social media at stop20podcast.com because you definitely want to follow Tony. He's got some really cool stuff on all of his accounts. And one of the coolest blog titles around, he does a segment called Stuff to Read While You're Pretending to Work. So, Tony, thanks for coming on today.
If that's my legacy, I'm gonna run with it. I think I started that probably, 5 years ago, and people love that title. So I'm glad it resonates because it's very appropriate.
It's funny because it's true, right?
Yes, exactly. But thank you for having me on. This is great.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this. So, Tony, let's start out. What's your story?
Oh, man. From a small town, and, as far as fitness is concerned, I started off with my first weight set when I was like 13, quote unquote, Santa Claus dropped it off when I was 13. So that was kind of like my impetus into strength and conditioning. That and a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I can't tell you how many times I watched Commando growing up. And that played a big role too. But my Santa Claus dropped the weight set off for me. I did a lot of bicep curls and to 90s hip hop growing up down in the basement. So that luckily transpired into a career in strength and conditioning, which I'm very happy for.
That's awesome. Was it on the list? Was the weight set on the list?
Oh my God, yeah. It's weird because I joke about this a lot. I don't know how it happened, but I'm the only person in my immediate family that is remotely like super health conscious. I just kind of gravitated towards weight training, athletics, eating healthy. I don't really remember like gravitating to like a lot of health and fitness magazines. And again, we're talking about the early 90s here, before the internet existed. So I don't remember reading a lot of this. I just kind of I watched a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I watched Rambo, Over the Top. I used to switch my hat backwards and be like, okay, it's on. And I just kind of gravitated to it naturally. And then my parents kind of saw that brewing and got me my weight set, and I followed the basic routine that it came with. The muscular guy on the sheet. I just followed that routine, and then once I got into high school, I went to the weight room after school every day and used that to help me get better at playing baseball. And it just, it just seemed natural. And, I don't know how or why that happened. It just did. And it's worked out well. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, it's very cool. Tony, I know you're a movie buff, but I'm going to have to say, besides your parents or some kind of fictional movie character, who is your superhero, your real life superhero growing up? Who influenced you to kind of become the person you are?
Yeah, so there's two. There's two that kind of pop out at me. One of in Fairyland was going to be Mark McGuire. So I grew up watching a lot of baseball, and he was along with all those movie characters I talked about earlier. He had forearms the size of Nebraska, playing, and I looked at that and I was like, oh my God, I want forearms like that. And so he was kind of like my fictional superhero, so to speak. But more in real life, my JV baseball coach played a huge role in help building my self-confidence and allowing me to pursue my dreams. Like, of course, as a young kid growing up, it's like, oh, I'm going to play in the big leagues, and from a very small town, that like people kind of roll their eyes at that. But he was the guy that was like, yeah, you work, you can do anything you want. Like, you practice, you put in the hard work, and good things are going to happen. So Coach Triola back in, I think he's still teaching in my hometown. But yeah, he was kind of like my real life superhero, and the guy that kind of gave me the self-confidence to pursue my dreams, so to speak. So I owe a lot of debt to him.
That's very cool. Was he just you said the JV coach? So was
Yeah,
it really only 1 year with him, or
yeah.
was it two?
So I lucked out in that I played JV baseball as an eighth grader. So I was kind of like brought up to the big leagues as an eighth grader. I played JV baseball for 2 years. And but he and I kept in contact even when I went off to college and after college. Like, I would come home for Christmas break or summer break, and I would always say hi to him and practice with the team. And he was just a great coach. Like, he was very, strict. Like, he knew what he wanted you to do. He wanted to do it his way, but he was just very giving and gracious with his time, and just very motivating. And that's just something that I took with me through my collegiate career, of course, but then just moving forward as a coach myself, just something that I kind of gravitated towards, was just trying to emulate just trying to emulate him the best I could. Really, is the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool because I have a kind of a similar, just for hockey. One of my coaches he was when I was 9, 10, and 12. So it wasn't just that 1 year. So it's interesting to kind of that you
Yeah.
didn't have him just that 1 year. But
Yeah, and I've had a lot of coaches, and I've had the hotheads, I've had the patient coaches, and he was kind of like in the middle ground,
a little bit of,
but he was the guy that was like, listen, the coach is the coach. You listen to what the coach says, and you do the work, and good things are going to happen. And he's the one that laid that groundwork for me, which when I gravitated to, because I started off at a junior college after high school, and my junior college coach was a hard ass, but in a very good way. Again, he's one of those guys where if you respected him, respected the process, and did the work, like, he would be he'd be in your corner fighting for you. And but a lot of guys didn't like that. They don't like the coach that gets on them and gets in their face, and there's definitely a threshold of like what's acceptable with that. But yeah, my JV coach, he's the one that kind of set the precedent for me as far as like, hey, coach is the coach. You do what coach says, and and that's just how I grew up with coaches in my life, just respecting that.
very cool. Who's that person now? Because I know you have you do a lot of continuing education. You do a lot of reading. Who out there? And you have a lot of interests too. I mean, anybody looks in your blog, you have a lot of different interests. So who's that person now you kind of feel like is doing some great things in the world that you kind of want to emulate?
Yeah, I'd be remiss not to, give a little props to Eric Cressy, of course. Like, I owe he and I have been good friends for over a decade, and obviously starting a business together and building it to what it is today helped me. When I did leave Cressy Sports Performance last year, it kind of helped me not shit my pants so much when I decided to open up my own facility in Boston.
Yeah.
Just kind of I just learning and watching and listening to him and Pete Dupuis like do their thing at Cressy Sports Performance as far as the business acumen. I'm pretty confident as a coach, like I can hold my weight, but when it came to the business stuff, when I left Cressy Sports Performance, it was very what's the word I'm looking for? It was just very I was very gracious to just have been in their presence for 10 years. It's like, oh, I actually did learn a thing or two as far as like how to run a business and, not implode within 2 months of opening. So again, I'd be remiss not to mention Eric. But as far as any other like major influences within the industry, the old dogs are the ones for me. So guys like Dan John, Mike Boyle, Greg Cook, Stuart McGill, I feel like those are the guys that I learned from. And people still learn from, and just following their lead in that they're never they still all have an insatiable desire to learn and to get better, and they're willing to admit when they're wrong. They're willing to admit when they want to, they change their thought process, and I respect that a ton. Like, I think it behooves any fitness professional to follow their lead in that regard. One of my biggest pet peeves is when someone feels like they know it all, and it's like their way is the only way to do it, and everyone has to do it this way, and if they don't, they're wrong. I hate that, and those guys are I think set the precedent or set the bar for what many of us should aspire to achieve, and that's just like, you're never going to stop learning, you're never going to you're never going to know it all, and knowing when to say I don't know is a very powerful thing to have in your back pocket.
Very cool. I think all of those, everyone you mentioned too, I think for you and I, we look at them and we say they're also doing it with such integrity, and it's a good, definitely a good lead to follow.
I understand it's cliche to gravitate to those guys, but hey, they're the shit. Like, those, and it's just like, there's a reason why they're the ones that everyone says, is because they're the ones they have integrity, they're successful, they're approachable, they're always still coaching and learning and giving. It isn't about take. They're still giving a lot of their time and their information. So and I try to just follow suit with that.
Great stuff. Tone, you especially on your blog, I think you speak to a lot of different people. I think you speak to a lot of trainers. You speak to the general population. My client, Betty, loved your blog. So when you're thinking about who you are and who you're trying to be, who are you trying to be a superhero to? Who are the people you're trying to help with what you're doing?
That's a good question. Like, I feel like I've had a pretty diverse career in that I started off as a commercial gym trainer, personal trainer for 5 years. And then, we opened up Cressy Sports Performance, and that became a mecca of professional baseball players. So I had 8 years training professional athletes and people who were pretty serious about their strength and conditioning. And now I'm like an entrepreneur, business owner, kind of reverting back to my roots, where the bulk of my clients again are general fitness population. And it's been refreshing. Like, I love it. And that isn't to say that I didn't enjoy or still wouldn't enjoy training professional athletes, but it's been a little bit of a breath of fresh air, training general fitness clientele and just being able to educate them and kind of deprogram them and make them into deadlifting terminators. And that tends to be the demographic that I enjoy working with the most. And in particular women. Like, I really love the women that come in and train with me and they want to get after it, and just they're kind of like the antithesis of a lot of those celebrity trainers that make us roll our eyes and the information they give with like lightweight pink dumbbells. And so like I generally, I understand that I reach a broad audience, but as of right now, like, I love being the quote unquote superhero towards the general fitness population and just getting them to be a champion for themselves, becoming more autonomous, and just getting strong, and how that is a good thing. And that's going to be the base for pretty much anything they want to do.
Very cool. I got to agree. Sometimes with women, I don't know if it's just because we're seeing so many rock star women come up, and it is kind of cool to train some of them sometimes and see them go after it and change that myth. So
and even coaching, like, I feel like it's unfortunate that there aren't more female coaches who are more respected. Because there are a lot of female coaches that I learn a ton from: Artemis Scantilides, Jen Sinkler, Nancy Newell, Nia Shanks, Molly Galbraith, the entire Girls Gone Strong crew. And it's unfortunate that there's a lot of guys who kind of like, they're women, they don't know what they're talking about, when a lot of those women are a lot stronger than they are, and they're very good at what they do. They get results. So I guess it's the feminist in me coming out, and that I think it's great that I get to train a lot of women, but I also get to point them in the direction of like, here's some role models for you guys to follow. Like, these are the women that I feel like are putting out the best information. They're getting people results. They practice what they preach. They send out good messages and good vibes. Anything I can do to always kind of like point people in their direction too, I think is a good thing. Because, I just think it's absurd that, and it can go both ways, but I think it's absurd that there's more male trainers and male coaches who are like shun them. When I'm like, hell, man, they're rock stars. They're putting out a ton of good information, and they deserve our praise.
Absolutely. Good stuff. You actually kind of covered some of the things that might be bothering you about the industry. So let's talk about, what do you feel like we're doing right? Let's keep it positive.
I think we're doing a good job of policing ourselves now. I think with social media and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, I think people they're a little bit more meticulous with the information they're putting out, or a little bit more cautious. Right. So, because the last thing that we want is to put something out and then it just gets ridiculed or blasted. So I feel like because we're kind of policing ourselves and, making sure that we're equal parts evidence-based, but then also equal parts anecdotal. Like, I believe they both are important. Like, I don't feel like just only being evidence-based is the way to go, and I don't feel like only being anecdotal and not respecting evidence-based is the way to go either. So, I think it's becoming it's becoming a little bit more middle groundish, which is where I feel we need to be anyways. That pendulum kind of gets swayed all the way to the right or all the way to the left on any given topic, and then at the end of the day, it's really that middle ground, or that pendulum's stuck in the middle, is where we want to be. And I feel like the industry is starting to become a place where that's more of a thing, where we're starting to meet more in the middle ground and be like, oh yeah, not everyone has to deadlift with a straight bar from the ground on day one, or squat ass to grass, or no one has to do this or that. So I feel like that's something that the industry is starting to get right a lot more often.
Very cool. I agree. I was hoping it would be sooner, but that's okay.
Yeah, well.
Tone, now it's time for the stop and give me 5 rapid fire questions and answers. So, Tone, I'm going to go, because I was looking at your website and I saw the Star Wars. We're going to have a little bit of a Star Wars theme here.
All right.
Star Trek.
Hopefully I can keep up with my nerd credit can be on point here.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Of course, that was a setup, so that's really not one. Han Solo or Luke Skywalker?
I would go Luke. Like, I think I can relate more to Luke. So I'm not quite the badass extroverted guy. Like, Luke is a little bit more introspective and patient. So that I can relate more to Luke.
Nice. Last Star Wars action figure you bought?
It was probably when I was like 14, to my credit. I'm not like a 40-year-old man buying action figures, but I want to say it was Jabba the Hutt would have been the last one that I bought, if memory serves me correct.
All right. Desert Island happens to have a TV and a DVD player, but what's the only Star Wars movie? You're only allowed to bring one. What is it?
Oh, I got to bring Empire Strikes Back. That's any Star Wars aficionado would always say that Empire is the best and always probably will be the best Star Wars movie. So,
right.
Especially the opening sequence in Hoth, like that, the first 20 minutes of that movie is so badass.
Awesome. So, deadlift PR.
My deadlift PR is 570 pounds.
Nice. All right. What was the last non-fitness related book that you couldn't put down?
That I couldn't put down. I really enjoyed, at the expense of like not bringing religion and politics into the conversation, I really enjoyed The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. That was a very, very, very good read.
Very cool. All right. We're going to wrap it up with the last couple questions. What's the project that you're working on, actually, that you just finished? Tell us about the project you just finished that you guys have been really excited about, you and Dean.
Nice segue, Anthony. I appreciate it. Dean Somerset and I released our product, the Complete Shoulder and Hip Blueprint, 2 weeks ago. It's a workshop that we've been putting on for over 10 years now. Collectively, we've probably done it together 15 times. And we ended up filming it when we were in Europe earlier this spring in Oslo, Norway. And it ended up being a 11+ hour digital product where it's equal parts presentation and tons and tons and tons of hands-on practical information as far as assessment, program design, exercise technique, and really connecting the dots between assessment, what you find in the assessment with regards to shoulder health and hip health, and how you can better set people up for success with their correctives and choosing the right variations based off their injury history, their anatomy. But yeah, we're very proud of it. It's gotten some really good feedback. And it seems to be flying in the digital sphere. So we're very proud and happy about it.
Very cool. We'll have links to that at the stop20podcast.com. Tone, 30 seconds, letter to your younger self. What advice are you giving yourself?
I would tell myself to not take myself so seriously. Like, I think we're always our own worst enemy or our hardest critic. And especially now that I'm an internet, not celebrity, but when you start putting yourself out there, and when I first started writing, I used to take things very hard when I got criticism. But you just got to learn that that's part of the growing process, and even like learning to fail well, using your failures as a way to get stronger and becoming more resilient. So I would just tell myself to, just roll with the punches, accept those things as ways to get better and to grow, and just kind of like flip it off as no big deal.
Very cool. Awesome. Tone, that's our 20 minutes. I really appreciate you coming on, doing some great things.
Thank you.
Educating people out there, not only the consumer, but a lot of trainers. So we really appreciate that. We really appreciate your time today. So thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, Anthony. That was awesome. 20 minutes goes by fast.
Yeah, it sure does. That was actually 21 minutes. So, all right, well, that's going to do it for episode 3 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast. Thanks again to Tony Gentilcore. Make sure to check out the links to all of his stuff at stop20podcast.com. That's stop20podcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. Leave us a review and a rating. It'll really help us out. My name's Anthony Rena. Thanks so much for stopping by.